What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Horrorheads podcast. I am Rich Mallery, here with my co-host, Jerry Lourenco.
How the fuck are you, Rich?
I'm doing all right today. Damn, I didn't expect you to come in that hot.
I know, I was a little somber a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I know, you were sad that like, your ice is melting really fast, so that's why we're kind of in a rush right now. Follow us on Instagram at horrorheadspodcast, or email us your love and hate at horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. So we were supposed to have a guest on tonight, but they just canceled as they are feeling under the weather and don't have a voice to talk, which is a good reason to cancel. If you can't talk, you can't be on a podcast. But we're still going to move ahead anyway. We're hoping to have that guest on very soon in the near future. So more to come on that. Instead of having our guest, we are going to talk about two recent movies. We're going to talk about A Quiet Place Day One, and then something called #AMFAD, or All My Friends Are Dead. But before we kind of get into all that stuff, so I know we did our episode last week, or 2 weeks ago, sorry, on horror comedies. I forgot to talk about, so recently I went to go see a screening of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, the 1988 film. And I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid. And again, I don't remember really caring about it one way or the other. Always been a big Elvira fan, like she's amazing. But didn't really remember the movie. And holy shit, it's fucking hysterical. And maybe when I saw it when I was younger, I didn't get a lot of the jokes. The movie is basically one-liner after one-liner, which I usually would hate, but most of them land. It's really, really funny. And if you're into horror comedies and you haven't seen it in a while, I would highly recommend checking it out.
I think I got distracted by your cat in the background. What year did you say this movie was?
It was
Or did you not say it?
No, I did. It was 1988 it came out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe I watched it in 88. Yeah, that sounds awesome though. I mean, I like Elvira, so for sure.
Yeah, the movie's
I'll
really
definitely-
funny. And one thing I didn't know is, so Elvira did a Q&A at the beginning, which was kind of cool because she was talking about the experience of making the movie and stuff like that. And two interesting things. One thing, Brad Pitt auditioned for a role in the movie, but didn't get it because he was too hot. And Elvira was scared that she was gonna like be too attracted to him. And the other thing is, the movie actually was like, they were begging Elvira to make a movie. She was already like a big star with TV, and they were pushing her to make a movie. And she finally did this movie, was really proud of it, really happy about it. And it was distributed by New World Pictures, which was a division of Universal, I believe. And what happened is, basically a week before the movie was going to come out, New World Pictures declared bankruptcy, and they pulled back all of the marketing, reduced the screens from like 3,000 to a few hundred, and the movie bombed. Like, it just came and went, and it really fucked up her career because she wasn't able to like get another movie made for 13 years because no one would take a chance on her. Yeah, I mean, she was still doing shit, but like she couldn't do another film. Like, she could not get funding for it. And it's just one of those things that happened. It's like, you have this movie, you think you're going to blow up and be like a big star and make movies, and then company goes out of business and you're fucked. So I thought that was really interesting, which is why, again, like, maybe you saw the movie, maybe you didn't, and it did pick up a cult following. But yeah, like it, and I actually believe I did see it in the theaters, which is crazy, because it was probably in the theater for like a day, you know.
So, I mean, Elvira always looked, pretty good to me. How'd she look? You just saw her. How'd she look?
She looks amazing still. Like, she
Wow.
still looks
Holy,
great.
so she is a vampire.
Yeah, because I don't want to say how old she is because I just don't want to say it, but she's definitely on the older side, and I don't care. She's still stunning, and really fucking funny. So
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, and they played in 35 mil, which was cool. I think it was actually her print, which was actually really cool. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. But anyway, so enough about that. I just wanted to drop that really quick before I forgot. Let's get into some drinking. My cat is about to fall asleep behind me, so that's good. So as people know, we do drink some bourbon while we do this episode. And tonight I'm drinking something called Redwood Empire Pipe Dream Bourbon Whiskey, bottled in Sonoma County, California. So this might be the first California bourbon I've ever had.
I'm all ears. I never heard of it. Yeah, obviously it's going to be some sort of small craft, but that's pretty awesome though. I trust California. I think they're going to make a very good bourbon. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll see. Meticulously crafted from hand-selected barrels, aged at least 4 years. Okay, cool. What do you got over there? What are you drinking?
Well, actually, I'm faking the 8 here, so I got this decanter here.
Oh no,
So
I know there's shit in that.
I have my decanters. So Rich and people, I'm broke as fuck right now. So, but you still need to get some bourbon. I knew the show was coming up, so I was on a bit of a budget, and I went to the store last week and I saw something there that I never saw before, and it was called Philadelphia bourbon. And I was like, all right, that sounds pretty interesting, Pennsylvania, it's fairly close. Maybe they make a good product. So it's 80 proof, and I'm about to pour it. And I'll take a sip, and I'll talk about it if you're gonna do the same. So I'm
Yeah,
pouring
80
right
proof on a
now.
bourbon. That just seems so low, but I mean, I
It
guess
is,
what are
yeah.
you
I
gonna
mean,
do?
but that's where it starts, though, right? All
And for
right,
those of
so
you at home that don't do this, usually the move is to put the shitty bourbon in the decanter, and that's the one you serve to guests, and they think they're getting something fancy because it's in the decanter. You have like the really expensive bottles behind you on display, and they don't know, and that's what I do. So,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
anyway.
man. People come to my house and they want to drink my like most expensive shit, and I said you can. It's right in that decanter. So hopefully my bourbon friends aren't the same as my horror friends, and I'm gonna get called out the next time I see them. But you know what? I'm like, no, no, I just said that for the show. I was lying.
Yeah, this is all an act. Like we don't even drink
This is
bourbon.
an
Like this is
act,
yeah.
man. I'm not here. Yeah, that's it. So so anyway, cheers. Let's try
All
this
right,
out.
cheers. Mm. Yeah, this is good. It just, I mean, there's nothing that stands out too much about it. It just tastes like a smooth bourbon. You get the caramel. I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of. Maybe it kind of reminds me of like a Woodford, maybe. It's good. And it was, I think the bottle was like $40, maybe less. It might have been like $35. So, not bad. I would get it again. It's decent. Tastes like bourbon.
Yeah, so this Philadelphia, let me tell you, for the price, and I will admit the price. It was $10 for
Get
the
the fuck out of
bottle.
here. $10?
Yeah, it was I'm telling you, man, I was broke this week and I
How
had
many
to do
bottles
what
did
I
you
had to
buy?
do. I just I just bought the
$10.
one because I was expecting it to kind of taste similar to like gasoline, but actually, you know what? It is super, super light. It doesn't have a ton of flavor. I would say it's crisp. And I'm very similar to like your takeaway. Nothing's really standing out to me. I would say if anything, it kind of tastes like a smooth blended whiskey, like something like really light, like a Dewar's White Label or something like
Okay.
that,
Or like a
but
J and
without
B or
like
something like that.
yeah, but without any of that like charcoal kind of gritty taste to it. It doesn't have any of that. It's super smooth and it's really easy to sip. So I'm gonna say for $10, this is a really good bourbon. So I like it and I definitely recommend it.
Wow, and it's decanter bourbon too. So
So putting it in decanter might have been a little bit of a trick, but I'm pretty sure it came in like a plastic bottle. And when I brought it home, it was like leaking a little
oh
bit.
my God, like
So I was
toxic?
like,
Like what was it
no, no, it was
leaking?
just like there was like a little crack or something, and I was like, where the hell is this leaking from? And so that's really why I ended up putting it in the decanter. But if you do come to my home and you do want some bourbon and you want my best bourbon, I guarantee you'll be drinking some Philadelphia $10 bourbon.
The Schnickel Fritz. Yeah, no, it's funny. Like putting something in a decanter does make it taste better because it's just a mental thing. You just think it's going to be fancier, and then like, there's the ritual of again, like you pour it from a decanter, and it seems like it's going to be a little nicer than it is, uh,
I mean,
which I
I
always
mean, I
find
have
funny.
a $100 decanter and a $10 bourbon. So I think if you were just to average that out, you have a pretty nice product.
Oh
So
yeah, you
that's
got
the
like a
way
$50 bourbon.
yeah,
Not
that's
bad.
the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So, why not? I mean, it's really, I 100% would say the vessel makes a difference of what it tastes like. So it happens to me all the time. If I'm not using like my favorite glass, the bourbon tastes a little different. If, I try it like in a plastic cup, it tastes different. So I think there's something to this. And I say if you have some shitty bourbon, put it in the decanter.
So this is what happens when we don't have a guest show up. We talk about decanters for 20 minutes and that's
It's all
basically
right.
the show.
You just,
We gotta we gotta fill time somehow.
you'll just cut it out and post if it doesn't make sense later on.
Yeah, like we had budgeted a half hour to talk to our guest, and I don't think we're gonna spend a half hour talking about decanters, but we we definitely spend
Well,
a good
it's
amount of
it's an
time.
educational program as well. There's many type of people. Maybe some people are listening just to the first 15, 20 minutes because they want to hear about the bourbon.
I mean, that is true. I get that email all the time that,
Hmm.
people learn so much from our
There
bourbon
we
drinking.
go. There
Yeah.
we go. So there you go. I mean, I can talk about some movies that I
Yeah,
I
let's talk
just
about some
watched
horror movies
recently.
because this is we are called horror heads and we probably should talk about some movies. So before we get into like the two that we're going to kind of dive into, like what have you seen recently that's kind of standing out to you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna stay on the kick with like new horror. I think I've been trying to watch some newer stuff lately. It's easy to get into that rut and just keep watching like your comfort films and watching the same thing over and over again. And I'm very, very guilty of that, where I just watch the same thing for like weeks on end. But you got to change it up. So anyway, I was floating around the internet, and this movie just kept popping up. I kept seeing the imagery with really no context around it, and the movie was called The Coffee Table. And the name alone sounds like the stupidest fucking film I could ever imagine, and not something that I would ever watch. But a lot of people were kind of, talking about it, saying it was really good. So I was like, all right, let me check this out. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm not going to spoil this movie, but it is a new Spanish film that features this couple, Jesus and Maria, and they're like new parents, and they're furniture shopping to basically decorate their new apartment. Now, Jesus is being pressured by like this shady, slimy salesman to purchase the ugliest ass coffee table I think I've ever seen in my life. And his wife, she's like dead set against it. And she's like, no, she's like cutting him off. She's like, we're not doing this. So basically, I think Jesus is suffering from like a bruised ego. So he insists that they buy this coffee table, and it ends up being a decision that will basically ruin everyone's life. So this film is like a super ominous mood, and it really like kind of treads on dark humor, but the humor is like it's like twisted, you're gonna laugh more at like being uncomfortable than you will at the actual humor. And it's really just like a day in a life of this struggling couple dealing with moving, budgeting, being new parents, even though they're older. And it seems like Jesus is a reluctant parent. And after they get the coffee table and the table shows up and he's building it, a horrible accident occurs. And really, anyone involved with them, anyone who's there throughout the day, whether it's like neighbors, family, or anything like that, it just kind of affects all their lives. So I'm not gonna really give any details about what happens. I'm just saying if you're looking for like something really, really dark, really twisted, and to kind of make you cringe a bit, I say watch it, go in blind, and that would definitely make it more shocking and disturbing than whatever it is that you're expecting.
So I have heard a lot about this movie, but I don't know anything about it other than people are saying it's one of those movies that like people are affected by. What kind of horror movie is it? Like what like I don't even know like other than what you just said about the plot, I know nothing. Is it like psychological? Is it just like is it gory? Like what is it?
So I mean, it falls in the psychological dark comedy genre. That's definitely what it is. There's not a lot of horror in the film as much as like disturbing imagery and like really tense situations. How does that sound?
God, I guess it's one of those things I'm like very curious to watch it just to see what.
I say be brave and do it, but the less you know, the more it is. Like honestly, like, it's I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know it was a Spanish film. I didn't know there was going to be subtitles. I didn't know anything at all. And I thought about this movie for like 2 days
Oh shit.
after, and it just like I was just like, what the hell did I watch? And then I started thinking to myself, I'm like, why did I watch this? Like what like why didn't I just stop it? But you almost have to see, like, once you get to a certain point, you have to go to the end just to see how it's going to end. So
Yeah, so it's fucked up. I'm just trying to
yeah,
gauge how fucked up. Is it like a Serbian film fucked up? Is it
it is
like Human
close.
Centipede? Oh, okay, close to Serbian
Close,
film. Got
close,
it.
close.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I want to know
Yeah.
what I'm getting
Way,
in for.
way, way worse than Human Centipede.
Okay, so in between
Yeah.
Human Centipede and Serbian film
Yeah.
somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. And they try to like have some like levity with like dark, like almost like funny situations. But I mean, like, there's no way. There's just no way you're gonna laugh. Like I understood when I was supposed to laugh, but I was like, yeah, I know, but I'm not forgetting like what's going on. So yeah, I say check it out. But yeah, so I watched that and
Where'd you
it
see
messed
it? Like
me
where
up.
was it? Like on
It's
Shutter?
on Prime. It's on
Oh,
Prime.
it's on, oh, okay, shit. Okay. So I actually can watch it. Oh no. I was hoping it'd be one of those things I can't find. Then I'm like, oops, I guess I can't
It
find
is
it.
on Prime, and I'm going to talk about one more movie,
Okay.
which I also think was on Prime because for some reason I was just on Prime that day, and I was just finding like a lot of stuff. that seemed like super interesting. So this film is called What You Wish For. Again, this is kind of like a psychological horror as well. So I kind of got stuck in this, and I think I might have watched these pretty close to each other, if not back to back, then within a day. And much different film though. So this movie is about this guy named Ryan, who is like this really talented chef, but he really hit some hard times. So he needs to get away. And he reconnects with one of his former colleague chef friends just to reset. And basically, this guy, his friend Jack, invites him to this tropical villa that he's staying out. And he's like, "Oh, you could stay here for free for a few days. It's beautiful, blah, 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 this and that." So he basically hasn't talked to this guy, Jack, in years. So they reconnect. They get to this awesome villa. And he sees that his friend Jack is booking like some huge, like private chef like jobs, but he's being like really secretive about the work and who the guests are. So anyway, after like a night of drinking and reminiscing, and Jack gets a little emotional as they're talking about college and things like that. The guy Ryan wakes up and he basically finds Jack dead after he hung himself. So he was like troubled, but he was really more kind of concerned with his own affairs. So he breaks into this guy, Jack's bank account, like on his laptop, and he realizes that there's like millions of dollars like in this guy's account. So instead of reporting his friend's death, he basically steals this guy's Jack's identity. So later on, when the guests arrive, they assume that he is Jack, and the guy Ryan is fine because he just assumes it's like a basic, like, dinner fare. But then he finds out really like what's on the menu and how he has to source the meal. He quickly realizes that the money may not be worth it, and it,
Oh
it gets
shit.
pretty twisted. The director of this film is Nicholas Tomney, and this guy's definitely a mood. Like I feel like all his films are kind of like exactly the same. Like he did that movie A Perfect Toast.
Okay, I seen that a long time ago. I actually like that
Yeah,
movie. Yeah,
yeah,
underrated movie.
yeah. It's a mood, and it's really like the same way. It's like shot the same way. He did this other short called The Host, which is basically, again, it's kind of like this film as well. And they're all exactly the same. It's like if you need like a director for like some sort of anxiety-filled dinner, like where the food is gorgeous and the tension's super high, this is the guy. And that's exactly like what this film is. There's just like gorgeous, like cooking and food imagery with this tropical backdrop, but so much tension. Like it has you squirming in your seat. So again, no spoilers here, but this was a really, really good film, especially if you have some sort of interest in like, cooking and things like that. You may find it a little more interesting. So I really like this film. I thought it was great.
So like I know a lot of people didn't like this movie, but what do you think of the menu?
Oh yeah. See, so it's kind of like that. It has like that same mood. And I liked the menu a lot. And I probably
Same.
watched it like 4 to 5
Oh
times
shit.
already. Yeah, I almost watched it again after I watched this. So I like it. It's very this is similar to the menu, but I mean I would even say that this is darker
Oh wow. Okay.
than the menu. This gets really, really dark and gets really, really twisted. And the way it's positioned with the characters and a lot of the scenes, like it's just so much tension that you're just like gives you like anxiety. And you're like, what's gonna happen? It's like it's really interesting. So like, I'm recommending this one. I would recommend this one over the coffee table because I hope to never see the coffee table again. But I would 100% watch this movie again. I thought it was great.
And was it What You Wish For? Is that what it's called?
What you wish for, yes.
Yeah,
So
I'll definitely check it out because I did really like the menu also. I just like the tone of it. It was definitely something creative that I really enjoyed. So yeah, I'm definitely interested. I watched a new movie recently too, or recent movie, and I'm the same way where I rarely will watch something new just because I just, I get bored easily and I'm like super busy and just go keep going back to my favorites. And I watched this movie, I think I saw it on Tubi. It was called Double Blind. It was this Irish, I guess, like psychological kind of survival horror movie, and I really liked it. It's somewhat lowish budget, but like really creatively done. It all takes place in this one location. So the plot of it is there's this woman Claire, I believe that was her name. She's kind of like homeless and down on her luck and just broke. and she signs up for this like study to test this new drug. And
Mhm.
she's there with like a bunch of different people, and they have to stay basically in this facility for 5 days while they test the effects of this drug. What turns out happening is that the drug does something to their brains where if they fall asleep, they die. And they end up getting locked into this facility for the entire time where they can't leave. So they have to stay awake basically for 5 days. And one by one, they fall asleep and they die a horrible, brutal death, like eyes, blood coming out the eyes, face just getting all fucked up. And the movie, I really enjoyed it because like you really start getting into as the movie progresses, and it's been like 2 days where they haven't slept, 3 days where they haven't slept. Like it really takes its toll on them, and they start kind of like questioning each other's motives. Like they find out one guy may or may not be involved in the survey, and basically they all kind of go mad and try to kill each other basically, and a bunch of other really fucked up stuff happens. I won't kind of give away like how it ends, but I actually really enjoyed it, and like did not expect much. It starts off a bit of a slow burn, but once it gets going, it just grabs you, and you just kind of really get invested in basically the story and like what's going to happen next. And they did a really good job again of creating a lot of tension. And like I love those movies again, kind of like when I think about the strangers, and I think about okay, the decisions they're making may be flawed because they're drunk, or they're not thinking properly because of X, Y, and Z. Here again, like if you haven't slept for if I haven't slept for like, if I don't get a good night's sleep, I don't get 8 hours, I'm fucked up the entire day, right? Like, or I'm not thinking straight. I'm like,
Dude can barely drive.
yeah, I can't do anything. So like imagine being up and you're trapped in this place where it's just you and the
Yeah,
other
day
test subjects.
three. Yeah.
Yeah, and they start going insane. And yeah, I really liked it. It was really good. Yeah, I would definitely recommend that again if you want to watch something that's a little different. Keep in mind it is lower budget.
Finding something on Tubi that like you just randomly clicked on and watched it and enjoyed it. I mean, that's a piece of gold right there.
Yeah, I
So,
know.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean,
I believe that's where I saw it. I either saw it there or Prime, but I think it was Tubi.
that's cool. And I like it. It's like double blind, like it's like some sort of like test and things like that. So I like the kind of like the pun in the title. So yeah, I think that sounds super interesting. And I usually like Irish films. I'm a big Irish folklore horror fan. So I think I would probably like this. Who is the director? Do you know or no?
Yeah, I don't know. It was someone I never heard of, but I also don't know a lot about Irish movies. Actually, wait, I have it up. His name is Ian Hunt Duffy.
I don't
Is
know
his
who that
name,
is, but I mean,
and it looks like I mean this is really what he's known for. He hasn't done much. He's done a bunch of shorts.
okay,
So
yeah,
this is like his first feature film.
man, and he made something watchable. Hey, congratulations, dude! I'm gonna check it out. You got to get a click from me. You got a click from Rich. So
Yeah, I would definitely
that's
watch
it.
it. I would definitely watch it again, which is something that I don't say very often about newer movies. What are some other like I can't think of another Irish like horror movie. Like what's like another one? I'm sure I've seen one. I just can't think of any.
I'm blanking right now. There was like, oh God, I can't think right now. I could see like four of them in my head.
What
I
was that
think
movie, The Ritual? Was that Irish? The one with the Netflix movie where they like go into there's like four dudes in the
don't
woods, and then like
remember.
they end up in like this weird fucking witchcraft kind of thing. I don't know if it was Irish or not, but it was really good.
Yeah, I'm just like blanking right now. There's like
You haven't slept more than 8 hours. I get
no. I was
it.
yeah, it's funny because I was just looking the other day at some of these films, but I didn't actually click on them and watch them. No, I don't know. Can't think
Yeah,
of
I,
any.
I just Googled Irish horror films and I haven't heard of any of these movies, so maybe I haven't seen any.
Yeah, it's a lot on Shutter, so I think that's normally where I'm like catching them. But yeah, I haven't watched one in a minute, probably since last year, but I will start again.
Oh, you know what? That movie Byzantium that I recommended, it's a vampire movie. That apparently is Irish.
There we go.
Actually, I didn't know that.
Boom.
Okay, cool. I got
Awesome.
one good one.
Sick. So, I'm going to start this drinking game early.
Oh, cool. Good.
I don't have a drinking game. I'm going
Oh,
to do our drinking game.
oh,
So, what would you rate this a double blind film? How many bloody knives would you give this?
oh, I'm glad you did this because I feel like we're not going to drink too much in this episode. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to give it actually, I'll give it 3.5. It was really good. It wasn't like
3.
amazing, but it was really good. I liked it.
3.5. All right. So for anyone who's listening, this is our standard drinking game that we do, especially if we don't have anything planned. And Rich and I both kind of give a 1 through 5 bloody knife rating, and whatever He gives as the rating I have to drink for that number of seconds, and for whatever I give as a rating, he has to drink for those amount of seconds. And if you're listening along, you could play with both of us and just keep drinking, or you could choose one of us and drink along. So you just gave that a 3.5. Okay, so I'm going to drink for 3.5 seconds, and I'm just going to go back in time here, and I'm going to talk about what you wish for, and I'm going to give that 4. What do you think
Ooh,
about that? Yeah, so
okay,
so
that's
I'm giving that 4 bloody 9s because I really liked it. I'm not going to rate the
no,
coffee table.
I'm not drinking twice.
I just don't want to talk about it. I don't even know what I would rate it. I don't know how to like. I just don't know how to categorize that. So yeah. So I think we just should take some sips right now and get going. Right.
All right,
So I'm
let's
gonna.
do it. Cheers. I'm gonna
All
drink
right.
for my 4.
Cheers. Okay.
Mm.
Oh man, I'm really enjoying this bourbon.
Yeah, I was gonna say this redwood, it's smooth. Like again, will I ever buy it again? Like, I don't know. Because there's so many other things to buy, but I'm not upset that I bought it. And I'm probably gonna finish the bottle tonight. Fuck it.
Oh man. Yeah, screw it. Yeah. All right. So that was pretty awesome. I mean, just getting the drinking game started pretty early. So I like that because like I said, I don't have anything planned and we're probably just gonna talk a lot about these films. So it's all right. We're gonna be like really professional tonight.
Yeah, and I know one of the films, and I'm not gonna say which one, but I'm sure you know which one, is probably gonna get a very low rating, and we're probably not gonna drink much. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna talk about 2 films. We're talking about A Quiet Place Day 1, and we're gonna talk about All My Friends Are Dead, aka hashtag AMFAD. And I'm going to start with the film that we're probably going to drink more with because why not? And that is A Quiet Place Day 1.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
I'm going to say right off the bat before I give the plot of this movie, I am not a fan of the first 2 Quiet Place movies. I watched the first one all the way through. I thought it was okay. It was fine. I'm not a fan of the actor and actress. Was it Emily Blunt and John
Yeah,
Krasinski? I
yeah.
really don't like Emily Blunt. I just feel like she's just seems like this boring. Like I don't feel like she has screen presence. I have a hard time following her for 90 minutes. I started watching the sequel, but didn't get very far. I was like, you know what? I just don't give a shit about this family and don't care. So I kind of was going into this thinking like, okay, I'm not a fan, but it's a brand new story, new characters, takes place in New York City. I'm in. So Quiet Place Day 1. This is basically a prequel to those other 2 movies. And plot of it is Samira, who is our main character. She's a terminally ill cancer patient. She lives at this hospice facility in New York with her cat Frodo. And one day, the group goes to New York City to watch a puppet show. Samira tags along thinking it's going to be something bigger like Broadway, and she thinks she's going to get some pizza out of it. While they're at the show, they're getting ready to leave. And what happens then is an alien invasion suddenly happens. And the twist on the aliens, it's not really a twist because you find out right away, is they have a very acute sense of hearing. So even the smallest noise they hear and can pinpoint on you and will tear you apart and kill you. So what I think is kind of cool is like you see this alien invasion unfolding and no one really knows what's happening. And like again, this is still like the military's like fighting back. So it's kind of like this whole battle is going on while Samira and some other people are trying to survive and just kind of hide and just kind of ride it out. As you know from if you watch the other movies, the sequels, like it doesn't end well for the humans, and the military does fail in their attempt to fight the aliens. But so what? There's a couple of things I actually really liked about this movie. My first thing I'm going to say right now is the cat Frodo. The cat is the star of the movie. And like I say that thinking like people like if you say that you're like okay the cat's like cute in the movie. No, the cat is actually a character in the movie. Like the cat is in almost every scene. There are certain things where the camera just follows the cat around. Like the cat is legit a character in the movie, which I've never seen done before in a film. And it was amazing. And for someone like me, and I know yourself, loves cats, I could watch a cat doing shit all day. And I was a
Hell
little
yeah.
nervous because I'm like, okay, like something bad is going to happen to this cat and I can't stand it. But the way that they set up the cat, knowing it's like this main character, I kind of wasn't as afraid. I was kind of like, you know what? I think this is going to be okay for the cat. I really liked that. And we'll talk probably mostly about the cat for the rest of this like segment because I have 20 different notes just on the cat itself. But the other thing I liked is when all hell breaks loose. I think they did a great job of really capturing the fear and confusion. So like basically like no one knows what's happening. It's just all of a sudden a ton of loud noises. There's smoke everywhere. Like people are screaming, running around. Like you almost can't see in front of you because there's so much smoke. And I feel like they really did a great job of just dropping you into this event. and you're just as like you're in there with her and the other characters where you're just like, what the fuck is going on? I think they did a really good job of that. It's really intense at times, which I really liked. I have a ton of notes on this, but I've been talking for a minute. So what do you think about the film just overall?
Yeah, no, so I did like the film, and I definitely have like a lot of notes based on like that initial attack. I think those aliens, even though this is just like a PG-13 film, I think they were scary, and the way that they moved and how they like really fast and kind of like track down people and wipe people out really quick. I thought that was kind of scary, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, watching that initial attack that you just saw, I mean, I got a little freaked out. It was a little reminiscent of 9/11, and it felt it
Absolutely.
felt that way with like, you're downtown, and all of a sudden there was all this smoke and all these loud noises, and people were running and not sure really where to go, what to do. And it was just a little triggering as a New Yorker. And but you know what? I'm like, man, how did they make me feel that way? That means they did that good of a job at it to make me think that like this alien attack was something similar that would happen, in real life. So I thought they did an excellent job. Um, at that aspect of creating that first attack. Obviously, I really liked the cat Frodo. I thought there was a lot of tension building with him kind of like walking around, and the aliens kind of creeping around. And I was just thinking about like my fucking cats would be noisy as hell, and I would probably be dead in less than a minute. But I thought this was brilliant, like using this cat and having it as an important character to Sam, and that this was like a service cat basically to help her with her anxiety. So there was like a real reason for this cat to be like tagging along, and I thought they really blended in really well. And just like you, I didn't like the first one. I hated it. I hate movies that like feel like they portray themselves as like a horror film, but really all it is an action film with a bunch of stars in it. And that's what the first one feels like. The second one I thought was actually a little better. But I didn't like it though. I don't watch these films. This is not my series. I'm gonna say it right now. I like this movie. I actually really got into the characters. I really started getting some feels. I think I teared up a little bit like towards the end. The casting was amazing. Lupita Nyong'o
Yeah, she's
was
great. She's great in this. She's amazing.
brilliant. I
Yeah.
mean, and even, Joseph Quinn, who plays Eric, which is basically the guy that's like following her around the whole time. I thought they had such awesome chemistry, and it was believable. And I think what's cool, and anyone who's seen these films before, they built this chemistry with really little to no dialogue. I mean, there were 15, 20 minute runs where there was nothing but soundscape and no dialogue. And I thought that was cool to keep you locked in and interested. I thought that was really, really cool that you could stay kind of like in that moment with the characters, but really with like zero talking. So I thought it was a really cool movie.
Yeah, just a couple of things of what you said. Like, so there are, and I have notes on this, there are a bunch of times where it does kind of feel like an action film, but there are enough, like, there is enough like horror in it or like, sci-fi stuff in it that like it's not a full action movie, but there are some of those like really intense, like crazy scenes. There is a bunch of CGI with the aliens where
Yeah.
they're scary at times and then other times they're not. So you kind of get that. The movie does really tug on your like your emotions though. It really does. And part of it is the cat in general. Like there was definitely like there's she like when all the chaos happens, she loses the cat and like the cat runs off and does whatever. And then like after the kind of smoke clears, like she gets reunited with the cat. And I almost cried. I was like, oh my God, it was so
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's what I'm saying.
Then
Yeah.
there's like another scene where she's in like an alleyway and she's just like all distraught. And then like the cat just happens to appear in the alleyway. Again, I almost cried. And I'm not gonna lie, I did cry at the end of the movie. I did cry. And part of it was emotional, like that's certain people were safe, and that was like really like I was like oh my god. And then but then the way Lupita plays like the end, like I cried. I really did. I was really like emotional on it. I wouldn't say I was like hysterical, but I definitely was like feeling something. And for a movie, especially a horror movie, to make me feel something, like that's a lot. And it like normally I'm like it's depressing, blah blah blah, but this like it worked on in a really great level. which I was surprised by. Like, I can't believe A Quiet Place Day One like made me feel anything. But it did, and I definitely got the 9/11. I was definitely thinking that right in the beginning, and like like I'm same way. I'm from New York. Like that still it dramatizes me in some way, even when I talk about it. And it's interesting, people that aren't from New York feel very differently. But I definitely thought of that immediately, what that must have been like for people that were just happened to be like in the nearby vicinity, like not knowing like what the hell just happened, just like these people did. So I thought that was good. One thing I do have some critiques. There's certain things I didn't like about the movie though, and one thing for and tell me if you had the same experience. And it could have just been my TV and my sound system. There are long stretches of time where they're whispering and I could not hear or understand a word they said. There's one scene in particular where it's raining, so they actually can talk because it's raining, and it's like a 10-minute scene probably. I could not understand one word. And I didn't have like my remote to put the subtitles on, so like I was literally just so bored because it was a long stretch of time. Like, and who knows what they were saying? Maybe it wasn't even important. But I feel like that was when the characters were kind of really, at least the one male character was being developed in their relationship. I feel like it was a pretty important part of the scene, but I have no idea. I don't know what they said. So you had the same kind of experience?
Yeah, totally the same thing. I was definitely and I find this very annoying when I feel like I have to hold on to the remote, so
Oh,
I'm constantly like jockeying it up and down, left and right. I didn't put on like, the surround sound or anything for this particular movie. And I actually watched this movie with my wife too, because there's like probably 5 movies a year that we can watch together, and she's not like mad at me. So I thought this would be one of them, and she ended up liking it too. But yeah, we're just like, what they say? What's going on? Um, but yeah, I just want to go back for like 1 second. Yes, Rich and I, we did cry, okay? And there's people freaking, man, those horror heads, man, they ain't shit. Well, listen, I'm dead inside. So this movie, this movie must have really just struck some chords and really just kind of touch on the same thing. And if you want to know what the secret is, I'm gonna tell you all right now. It's fucking cats.
Yeah, that's what it was. Again, like maybe the ending would have got me without the cat. I don't think so. I think the whole
It's
movie
cats.
was an emotional roller coaster because of the fucking cat.
The cat, man.
And again, every
So
time I saw the cat, I like felt joy, and then every time I didn't see it, I felt sad. So it was like constantly fucking with me. Where like, oh my god, okay, the cat's okay, and then oh no, the cat's gone. Like, what's gonna happen? Yeah, like I can't talk enough about Frodo the cat, who was actually played by two different cats, Nico and Schnitzel.
what?
It was two cats.
I'm
That they
so
used.
upset. I used to have a
No,
cat named Nico.
did you really?
That's
Oh,
pretty.
that's amazing.
I did. It lived outside though. I have a lot of outdoor cats as well.
An interesting story. So the actress Lupita was actually terrified of cats. She had like a phobia of cats, but she really wanted to play this role, and she went through cat therapy apparently, where they like gradually introduced cats to her and blah blah blah. And over time, she ended up like loving cats, and now she owns cats. So she was like,
Well,
it's
listen,
interesting.
that's real. Anyone who's saying that's bullshit, that's real. Actually, my mother is terrified of cats, and I don't know if I should say this to the masses. It's a little embarrassing, but I have 6 cats, and my mother never comes to my house because she's terrified of it now. My house is very neat and clean, so I don't
They
think there's like
outnumber
just
you
a bunch
though.
of house.
That's six cats
Yeah,
is a
there's
little
not a bunch of
scary.
there's not a bunch of cats running around and there's shit all over the place. It's very clean here, but it like she has a phobia, and I'm always like bothered by it because I'm just like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, it's a quarter of your size. Like, how could you be scared? And she just won't. She just can't get past it. So I understand that. And for someone who has to be an actor and deal with this all of a sudden, I mean, that's difficult. So I want to give her even more props than I was giving her to begin with, because not only did she really make this character like a lovable character and someone that you're really invested in, and you're like just already upset thinking about her health condition, and then to add that while she's scared of like her co-actor. I
Yeah.
mean, that's amazing to me, and I'm happy she's now a cat person. Maybe I'll send her a DM, see what's up. Talk
Yeah,
about some
we'll exchange
cats.
cat pictures.
Yeah, see what's up. Let me see what you got. I'll, tell me what kind of cat you like. I probably have one here, and I'll take a picture of it.
Yeah, no, so I thought that was really interesting. Like again, like overcoming like her fear to kind of just do this movie, and the fact that she fell in love with cats in the end. Other things I'm gonna say about this movie that I just have like why I like the movie a lot. I didn't like love it because there are long stretches of time where nothing's really happening, especially when you get to like the back half of the movie. I would say like once you get to like the 45-minute mark, it kind of slows down a bit and it's a bit repetitive, where it's basically the same thing, right? They go to do a thing, someone makes a noise, the aliens come, and then they have to sit still and be quiet till the aliens go away. And then like that kind of just repeats over and over again, which I guess is their experience, but it just seemed like by like the fourth time it happened, I was kind of like, okay, like I'm not as like interested anymore. Again, they did a great job of keeping the tension and everything like that, but to me it just was like kind of repetitive in a way, especially when it got towards the end. So that was like kind of one like critique I have of the film.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed like repetitive, and I guess the movie would have wrapped up a lot quicker if it was actually like realistic. So just to give people like a sense of like what Manhattan is like if you've never been there and yet you watch this film, they were in Chinatown watching this play and they had to get to South Street Seaport, which is literally like a like it's not even 2 miles away. It's like if you slow walk, it's 20 minutes. So they could just walked over there and they could have evacuated. The movie probably would have ended, but for some reason, and I don't know why, they go to Harlem. And Harlem is very, very far away from South Street Seaport. So that is probably like a 2 hour walk. And they go all the way there to I guess to get her meds or whatever the reason was that they went all the way back to Harlem. But I mean, they probably could just got away and got whatever, medical help that she needed. So it was it was a little weird, you know.
Yeah, I think they weren't thinking that people were actually going to do the geography of like where things are, because that would make no sense. You would never, especially, yeah,
Never. You're
again, for
right
those of you
there.
who haven't seen the movie, basically they found out that the aliens can't go in the water. So they were doing evacuations by boat at South Street Seaport, and you just had to get there. But getting there, not so easy, right? Because everybody's trying to get there and people make noise. And like there's one scene again where like a big group of people is kind of marching towards safety basically, and the aliens all come and just take out everybody, and it's really fucked up and crazy. But yeah, like there's like I think it's probably even a more of a 2 hour walk to get to Harlem. Like that's
Yeah,
not
it's
that's like a trek. Like there's, I mean, I get that they wanted to go to Patsy's Pizzeria in Harlem. I guess that's what they wanted to do, but it made no sense. It made no sense.
you're passing about 350 pizza places like on your way to Harlem. And I do want to talk about that. I thought that was like a really, really touching moment when Eric actually goes to one of my favorite places in the world, which is the 99-cent pizza in New York City. And he just gets her some slices and he writes Patsy's on it because it was like, it was like Sam's dying wish to eat this pizza, one more time. And even though that there was no power, and I'm hoping it wasn't congealed or anything like
It
that. It was
looked
probably
good. The
pretty,
pizza looked good. I don't
it
care.
was probably pretty delicious. Let me tell you something. 99-cent pizza is legit. If we're walking, I think there's only like two of them left in New York City. If I walk past one, I may pop in, and it's actually a little bit more than 99 cents, but it was 99 cents up until last year. So, but yeah, I mean, that was like a really touching moment, and it really kind of showed like the connection between these two characters, and it made him more likable, where maybe at first he felt like maybe he was like an anchor and he was really going to kind of screw up like her plans, and whatever happened to her was probably going to be a result of this guy kind of being like a fumbling kind of like idiot. But he really started pulling his weight. I think he became an extremely lovable character, and I liked him, and he became a friend of Fredo, and like it just all of a sudden there was like all these connections, and I thought that was great. I really liked that moment in the film, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the aliens or the horror part. But again, sometimes when a movie, like when they really develop those characters, it's like you get into that. It doesn't really, it doesn't have to be like all that, gore and blood all the time. It's like, they were still in a fucked up situation. They couldn't talk right outside were these aliens just waiting to take them out. And they're literally taking out any single person that made a sound. So, I mean, just being in that situation, you could imagine yourself, like how do you stay quiet, And so I think they did a great job kind of building a relationship in such circumstances. And again, I can't say enough, because I'm going to tell you why I can't say enough. because I went in thinking like I didn't want to watch this movie. I'm
Same.
like, why the fuck are we watching this movie? I'm like, I don't want to watch it. I hate these movies. This is stupid. I don't want to do it. And then I was like 15, 20 minutes in, it's like, all right,
Yeah, yeah,
and then
no.
I started getting a little bit more. And then, when it ended, I was like, it's a pretty good fucking movie.
Yeah.
So,
And the movie's told basically in real time, which I think is interesting too. It's basically
yeah,
like the only times there's like breaks is when they pass out or fall asleep. So it's definitely an interesting way they told the story. Yeah, and I think you also add the complexity that she's like a terminally ill cancer patient. So she needs like pain meds and she's suffering throughout the whole movie. And you think like, what do you do now? Like you're trying to survive, but you also have this thing that's like really holding you back. One thing that I read that actually, so the majority of the movie was filmed in London,
I know,
not in New York
disappointing.
City. Yeah, which I get like, how
Hate
do you film
that.
this movie in New York City? But the only
At
place that
5
was,
a.m.
yeah, the only place
Yeah.
that was actually filmed in New York, I believe, was the scene in front of Patsy's Pizzeria in Harlem. That's like it. Other than that, the whole thing is in London, which again, kind of a bummer. But like again, yeah, again, it is what no, most people are never going to notice that.
Yeah, and it annoys me because I like traditional like New York City Gov films. Like I always get excited by that when they actually get behind a film and they sponsor it. And there's a lot of shows and there's like a lot of films that are shot in New York. And I always like that authentic feel. I will say I think they did a very, very good job. They fooled me. I don't know if it was stock footage, CGI. I don't know what it was, but it looked really good. One of my favorite films in the world is Eyes Wide Shut. And that is a New York City film. And that was not filmed in New York either. So, it's like I always get upset. It doesn't mean I'm gonna hate it, but I do like a traditional, real New York City movie. And thinking about that, they always show this like every movie, like whenever there's like some sort of like terrible event or something like that. Like they blow up the Brooklyn Bridge and they blow up the Manhattan Bridge. It's like, these people aren't stuck, It's like they can still get off. There are hundreds of subways. There, if there is power, there's hundreds of subways, there's hundreds of tunnels. Like there's ways to get out of New York. So like why are you blowing up the stupid bridge? It's not doing anything.
Yeah,
You
and they
could
did that to
still
keep the
get
aliens trapped, right? Is that why they did it? I forget why they did that. Or did the aliens blow it up? I thought the military blew up the bridges to keep the aliens out. But you're right, they could have just gone through the Lincoln
They can
Tunnel
still
and
go
ended
through.
up in
There's
Jersey.
tunnels. There's
Yeah.
there's there's tons of tunnels. There's
Yeah.
tons of subway tunnels. You could get wherever you want. You could get to Jersey. You could get to Long Island. You could get to wherever you want. So you don't need the bridge. And just blowing up those two bridges. There's like four other ones. It's like I always think that's funny, and I'm like, oh, that's like such a it's a very cliche thing they do whenever it's like a New York kind of horror film, and I always find that very funny because it's like everyone's like, oh my God, they're trapped. They're definitely not trapped. You could totally get off of the island if you needed to. So
And what's interesting is like all they have to do is mention it. Like they just say, "Oh, they blew up the bridges and the tunnels."
yeah.
But it just seems to me like they didn't even realize. Like the writers didn't even think about it. Like probably never been to New York. They probably
Yeah,
just,
like we
you
just
know.
blow it up. It's like, why would you do like it's so stupid. But the one thing I really want to talk about, I want to get your take on this, is obviously this movie was A Quiet Place. So it's about being quiet. And we knew going into it that there wouldn't be a lot of dialogue and a lot of, talking and stuff like that. And I think these types of films are really starting to have a moment, they're really starting to get like more popular. There are a lot of films coming out or recently been out where there's no dialogue. What do you think about these types of films? I mean, is this a good direction to go in? Is this the future of film? Is this are they lazy? Are they like what do you think about like, this type of film where there's really like probably a 15 page,
Yeah.
dialogue script.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I'd rather there be no dialogue than bad dialogue. And like, if we talk about when we get to the next movie that we're going to talk about, like, I would have rather have that been zero dialogue. So it probably would have been better.
Silent film.
Yeah, yeah. So like, again, I think it can be effective. I think for me personally, movies that don't have a lot of dialogue are tough on the rewatch for me. And the reason I will say that is because a lot of times when I love a movie and I watch it tons and tons of times, I'm not going to be paying attention to the entire thing most of the time. Like I'm going to be kind of half watching it. Maybe I'm drinking, maybe I'm like texting, maybe I'm on an edible, like where I'm not really paying attention. And if like I don't hear the dialogue, I kind of like forget that I'm even watching the movie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like it can be really effective, and again, and sometimes it's like it works, but it doesn't. It's tough for me. Yeah, like a lot of these movies. There's one we watched too, like for the show. I forget which one it was, but it didn't have a lot of dialogue. And I remember thinking like, I'll never rewatch this movie because I'm just not going to pay attention to it on the
Oh, it
second
was
time.
is that alien film? No one will save you. Is that
No
it?
one
Is
will
that what you're
save you.
thinking of?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
so we
it.
didn't talk
Yeah.
about that on the show, but I really liked it. And that movie is basically just this one woman being attacked by aliens, and it's really good. But I've not watched it since, and I think that's why. Because like to me, then it's just a bunch of action and tension, and if I already know the outcome, like I don't feel that same intensity. Because that's when those things work, when you're like super locked in, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? If I know, I'm kind of like, all right, please say something. So I don't know. You know,
I think
again,
you're right, actually, because I was curious what your opinion was going to be, but I didn't expect you to say that. And now that you said that, that's exactly how I feel. I watch these films, I like them, but I haven't even thought to watch them again or to rewatch. So there you go. There's that question. Is it a good film? Is it a good tactic? Because if you don't watch it again, how great is it? And I could think of like two, three, four movies right now that are like that. But you know what? It's been a year. It's been 6 months. I don't even think about it. So yeah, good point. That's a great point. And maybe I didn't realize like why, and
yeah.
like why am I not watching this again? Because I remember thinking, oh, that was really good. But that's probably the reason. I probably just like get distracted, I walk away, all of a sudden I come back, I'm like, what happened? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I see it, it's almost like keeping time for you, and it reminds you of like, where the scenes are that really that lock you in, that you want to see and experience again. And if there's no dialogue there, you just have to basically watch the movie start to finish without even, looking away from it. So I
Yeah, and
get
if you
that.
already know what happens, it's not as interesting, right? Like, because you're like you said, you're looking for those moments, the scenes you love, and if it's like, you know, I don't know. So yeah, like I'm not like a huge fan of movies at all, and I think it goes back to the thing whenever we're doing our ratings for these movies, like a lot of what comes up, right, is will I watch it again? And like, does it, can it be a good movie if I liked it, but I have no interest in seeing it again? And I guess that's just the question, right? Like, and but I do think about it that way. Like, how much do I actually like it? Like, if I'm never going to watch it.
I definitely grade down if I liked it and I never watch it again. There's only going to be a certain limit that it'll get to. It'll never be like like if I'm giving something say 5, I'm probably watching it all the time. But this film, which we're going to rate in a little bit, whatever I give it, I'm probably not going to watch it again, even though it really kind of tugged at me, and I really enjoyed the cat and I really enjoyed the characters. But you're right, I know what happened now. There's no mystery to it. The tension isn't really the same anymore because I kind of know, what's going to happen. So sometimes maybe the dialogue, and a lot of times you like thinking about the dialogue and you think of like those one lines that like, oh, that was a really good line, or maybe that was a funny line, or that was a clever line, or that was a brutal line. And but if there's really no dialogue there, it's not as memorable. And yeah, I didn't even think of it like that, but I definitely grade down if I'm not going to watch something again. For me, it's a requirement is rewatchability, and I don't know if that's a word, but if it isn't, I just made it up. And they say only insane people can make up words that don't exist.
Insane people that are dead inside, apparently. Yeah, so like
Except for cats.
getting to the rating of this, like yeah, except for cats, it is tough because yeah, I liked the movie. It's a good movie. I recommend people watch it. However, my rating is going to be a little on the lower side just because yeah, like if someone puts this movie on, I will not be upset. I'd be like, cool, I'll watch it. But I don't think I'm ever gonna on my own. Maybe years from now, I'll probably put it on again. And the main reason I think I'll watch it again is for the cat. Like that's probably why I'm gonna watch it again. But it's gonna be a long time before I watch it because again, like you said, so like I am actually gonna give this movie a 3. Movie's good, liked it. I think people should see it. I hope people watch it. But yeah, it's like it's gonna be a long time before I watch it again because I don't really need to. So I'm giving it a 3. How about you?
I feel that I almost wish I could do quarters here, but I'm not. I'm gonna go up. So I'm gonna go 3.5. I
Fair.
really enjoyed it. At the moment I was watching it, I liked it. I saw that my wife liked it. I think we both were getting that same feeling and really getting into like the character development, and we both fell in love with the cat, and that makes it a good movie. Am I gonna watch it again? No. You know, I'm done. I'm never gonna watch. I'm not gonna go back and watch the other ones now.
Yeah, no, no.
That's definitely not gonna happen. But yeah, 3.5 for this one.
Yeah, so it's interesting again, just getting back to the rating again. Like the movie rated earlier, Double Blind. A Quiet Place Day One better than Double Blind. I think people will like it more than Double Blind. I'd probably recommend it more than Double Blind, but I'm gonna watch Double Blind again. I won't watch this again. So there you go. All right, I'm gonna drink my 3.5. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, well, that was A Quiet Place Day One. Now we're gonna talk about a movie that I think you already know what my thoughts on this movie are. It is hashtag AMFAD, or All My Friends Are Dead. And look, if I see a hashtag in the title of a movie, I'm already like, this is probably going to be shit. But like, look, we picked this movie. It was a new movie. We thought let's try something different, new. Maybe it's trending. We saw the director, Marcus Dunstan, actually
Hell yeah.
directed The Collector, which we always talk about that movie, love that movie. So I was like, all right, maybe this is something a little different. Maybe I'm just, who knows? Like sometimes the studio titles these movies and like they thought it would be hip and cool, and maybe the movie's actually good. So I'll give it a chance. So do you want to get the plot for this one?
Yeah, sure. So a group of super annoying Gen Zers are on their way to a music festival called Karma Palooza, which is a bit of a pun, when they get a flat tire in the middle of nowhere and they have to spend the night at the only available Airbnb. While at the place, the host conveniently left shot glasses that reflect the seven deadly sins. These people are party animals, so of course they each choose which sin best represents them, and they take some shots. So from the opening scene, we know that there were previously unsolved murders years ago that revolved around the seven deadly sins. So there should definitely be some red flags going off here. But these kids are pretty dumb, and they don't realize that anything is going on until they start disappearing one by one. And that is the short plot of this film. There is a lot to talk about because a lot of shit does happen. But yeah, that's the tent poles.
Yeah, I mean that's it. So basically the elevator pitch I would give for this movie, it's Saw meets Seven told through the lens of someone who thinks they understand Gen Z. And look, I'm old, right? I think any of these movies that are like really targeting Gen Z or that are trying to have that like Gen Z appeal, I can't stand. And I can't stand, maybe it's because I just don't understand like Gen Z, but I think the big part of it is like I don't do well with movies that are trying to be like cool and hip and current and trendy. They don't age well. Uh, and it's like if again, if I don't speak the language, I don't understand the movie. And even I think the people that may like this movie, and maybe there are some like 13-year-olds now that like this movie, they're not going to like it in 2 years because like by then all of the dialogue and the stuff is going to be irrelevant. So like I don't understand like why these movies get made, and a lot of them do get made. This reminded me a little bit of that Festival of the Living Dead movie, the Soska twins one that we tried to watch, where again you have these movies that are made by people that are not Gen Z and are trying to like act like they know. And I think
Faking the ape.
faking the eight exactly. And it's like it comes across so inauthentic to me and so annoying and boring that I just have a really hard time. But like getting to the movie itself, and I know this is like a trope. It's a trope I hate, and it happens in so many movies. And it's when you have a group of friends who in the never in a million years would be friends with each other. And like I get that they're trying to like create characters that are all different and not interchangeable, but it's always the same thing. You have all these people and you're like, there's no way any of them would ever be friends. They're so completely different and opposite. There's always like that like super stoner hippie kid.
Yeah.
There's like the video game kid. There's like the really hot girl.
Yeah,
There's like
she's like an influencer. She's hanging out with a hippie guy. Like, why would
there's
that
like a
ever
football
never
player.
happen?
Like
Yeah.
it's in a million years. And again, I don't understand that. I don't know if it's like just they can't cast these movies or they're just trying to like give something for everybody. But it annoys me in every movie, even in movies I like, they do it, and it drives me insane. Like it just seems so unrealistic. But so that's right off the bat. Like I hate all of these people.
So I do want to talk about this for like a second here. So this is a group of characters, and there's like seven of them. Maybe there's eight at one point. I don't know. I think there's seven.
I think another one
Um,
comes in later. Like
yeah, but every single character in this film is entitled, pretentious asshole. Now, this is a horror film, okay? So this is this is where I'm starting to think now. Now hear me out on this, and I need your opinion on this. Okay. Now, is this what like kids are really like right now? Because I feel like I know kids. I feel like I know young people, but is this what kids are really like? Or are these just the same exact characters that we watched in the 80s that were annoying as well? We say it all the time. All these characters are annoying. I can't wait they're dead. But they're just modern, you know? So are they actually like overdoing it, making these characters like more annoying and more entitled? Or are they trying to reflect like what's happening now where people are going to maybe identify with these characters? Or are these just like the same kids? And we just like, yeah, I didn't like those kids. I don't like these kids either. And they're basically like bait for the killer. So what do you think about like this casting and these groups of characters that we're seeing a lot now in these really like super modern films?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point because again, like most slasher movies, it's a bunch of people you can't stand and can't wait to see get killed. Like that's kind of like how it goes. So like I'm not opposed to that in a movie. I do think that they're taking it like way too far where these people again are just so overly annoying. And again, maybe it's just like I don't understand again like the like I'm not on TikTok. Like I don't understand like what that kind of generation is all about right now. I don't think they're this. Like, I think this is like, again, someone who is probably 50 years old who like is like bitter and it's just like, this is what I picture. Like, they just think everybody's like a Kardashian guy. Like, this is what I picture kids being like nowadays. And it's almost like a caricature, which again, like why I say it's inauthentic. Like you said, I mean, I work with younger people too, and like, they're a little like entitled or pretentious. Like these traits exist, but nobody's like not everybody's trying to be an influencer and it's like super annoying like that. It's
It's
like
like a joke,
yeah.
but I'm just like, is it an intentional joke and we're supposed to get it? Or are they trying to make a good character? And that's where I always get confused because I'm not sure through which lens I should be like viewing these newer films. And I don't want to hate every new film that comes out. It can't be that way. It can't be, it just can't be like that. So what is going on with the characters? If someone just told me, be like, look, we're just like taking these traits to the extreme to make them like super annoying. So you hope for them to meet a horrible demise. I understand that. But I did understand it when I was watching like the films in the 80s and 90s. I understood that these characters are basically there for me to hate. But I don't feel like they're doing that. I feel like they're trying to reflect what they're seeing. So I'm really confused.
And look, I think you take a movie like this, right? And it's really not a horror movie. It's like meant as like almost like a comedy, right? Like I'm assuming it's like trying to be funny and cool and hip with it just has some horror elements. Like here's and this is very similar to a bunch of other movies I watched. Again, that Festival of the Living Dead movie is a good example. There's a movie Slaughterhouse about a killer sloth that's very similar to this. It's like the same kind of thing. And I
Sounds
think what they're
awesome.
trying to do, it's not, it's terrible. It sounded awesome, but it's very Gen Z like this. But I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to take like Mean Girls, modernize it to like right now, and make that into like a horror movie because that's what this makes me think of. And I liked Mean Girls. I'm not gonna lie, I like that movie. I
Hmm.
thought it was really clever,
I love it.
funny, and I like that movie. I've seen it multiple times. I think they're trying to take that movie, make it now with these again super exaggerated influencer kind of annoying characters and add horror elements. And I think that's what they're trying to do. And that's what it made me think of, but like not done well because it's not interesting and it's annoying. And like again, I get like you said, the characters are always annoying. Friday the 13th, they're always annoying. Like they're bait for the killer, but like this is so fucking annoying. And it's not even just the characters that are annoying. It's like the way some of these, and I keep saying Gen Z, some of these movies, like the way they try to use technology is just so annoying. Like everything is like showing like a cell phone and showing like everything is like I'm watching, like literally, I feel like I'm watching TikTok. Actually, I feel like I'm sitting next to somebody who's on their phone and I'm looking at their TikTok. That's what I feel like when I'm watching these movies. And it's so annoying. And especially again, thinking that all of this technology that they're showing, the text messages, the bubbles, all this stuff, it's going to be so outdated next year that why are you doing that? And there's so much of it. Like the first 10 minutes of this movie is just text bubbles and like watching Instagram feeds and like hearts. And it's so I can't stand it. It's because it just takes you out of the movie and like and there must be an audience for it. Someone must like this, and maybe I'm just too old for this kind of movie. But oh, I can't take it. And
I'm
and
I'm not seeing that feedback though, because like when I think of like, who the horror fan is, I don't know enough, say, of that younger generation who are like legitimate horror fans. They're like obsessed with horror. Like when we like when we were younger, it almost became like your identity. So you hit like that 13, 14 year old self, and you discover horror films, and that suddenly just almost becomes like who you are as a person. You're a person who watches horror films, you live for horror films. I feel like there's just so much going on in the world, and there's so much input from so many different directions. You can't actually dedicate yourself to just say one genre, because then you won't have anything to talk about with your friends. And there's like 1,000 other things that you need to be watching too, just to be able to have a conversation. And it's not knowing one thing really well, it's knowing everything. And I think because of that, that takes away from the traditional horror fan, and you end up with old fucks like us. And we're watching these new movies, and we're waiting for these new movies to come out. And we're the ones that are really like kind of digesting this. And this is what we're seeing. So, who are they making these films for? Is there a large group of the younger generation who are just dedicated to horror and this is their type of film? Or is this just a bad, approach to making a new movie when you could have like did something a little more classic? And I do want to talk about the director, Marcus Dunstan. I mean, his movies were pretty fucked up and pretty gritty and pretty crazy. And this whole film looks like a really Instagrammable kind of neon light looking film that you could stop at any second and take a picture of it, and it looks like an Instagram post. And is that good or is that bad? I don't know, but it doesn't feel like you're watching something scary. And a lot of that takes away from the dread, even though a lot of fucked up things happen. I'm
Fucked
gonna
up
say
things do
like
happen for
the
sure. Yeah,
gore in
there's
this movie was sick.
yeah, I agree.
But I've seen a lot of movies like this. I watched a movie recently, I think it's called Tarot, and it's just, again, it was just like so light, so light. And it's like, this is so stupid. It's like there's nothing happening. It's not scary. But then for some reason, when they got to the gore, it was actually over the top. Just like this was a little bit over the top. And it's like, what kind of film is this? And it just confuses me. And I do want to like new films. I don't want to be like a guy watching, Halloween from the 70s, when I'm in my 70s,
Yeah, yeah.
like that's ridiculous. You have to consume new content, and you have to like new things. But I mean, I just don't know about this direction and these types of films.
So I'm gonna a couple of things on that, and one is again these films, or at least the ones that we're talking about. I'm gonna say right now they're not good films, and they're not well done. And even taking apart like my feeling on these movies, they're just not good. Like there's no, like you said, there is a lot of gore, but like there's nothing scary about it. Like even when the people are like tied up and they're gonna get tortured, it just seems more like funny than not, and like unintentionally funny. I do think that these movies are not made for horror fans. I think they're made for just, again, teens. I think they're made for the 13-year-old and who may, watch a horror movie, but they're not horror fans. But the other thing I will say is a lot of these movies don't do very well. Like that Tarot movie you just referenced bombed. It bombed at the box office, it bombed
Oh,
on
I didn't know.
digital.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't do well. This movie, again, no one's going to watch this movie. Like it's not going to do well. All these movies, they end up on streaming platforms because like there's not really a market for it. I think they're trying to like create a market with these movies, and maybe someone will make a really good one and it will work. But I think they're trying too hard to appeal to a demographic that is just probably not interested in this, because again, it's making fun of that demographic, and I don't know if that demographic is really self-aware enough to get the joke. So I don't know, but yeah, getting into these movies, like they're just not good. And there's a few things about this movie too in general I don't like, taking out, forgetting the whole characters and stuff like that. One thing I hate in movies, another thing I hate is when there's like references to weed in the movie, and it's clear the filmmakers have never smoked weed. Like there's that one scene, the hippie's like smoking weed,
Yeah.
and he sees like it's like he's tripping balls, and there's a squirrel
Yeah.
talking to him, and it's like anyone who's ever smoked weed knows nothing like that ever happens, where you start seeing squirrels talking. Like, come on. Like it's so annoying. It's something that you see in a lot of movies that they just don't understand. They think, oh, like getting high is like,
Like
I don't
tripping
know.
out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's
It's
not.
like
But like things like that, it's like just weird. It's like, what is this doing in the movie? Squirrels talking to this guy? It made no sense.
It was totally out of place. Yeah, I thought that was silly. It was
It's
silly
silly,
and
but not funny. It wasn't funny. It was
not
just
funny.
annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, why is this here? Like if I was if I was like a weed person, or if I was like a burnout type person, I'd be like, it's not funny. You know what I'm saying? It's like, or if you never did it, you still like you don't get the joke, so it's still not funny. Again, it's just it was unnecessary,
It
dumb.
also it takes like 30 minutes before anything horror related happens, which so you're stuck with these characters for 30 minutes and you're just annoyed for 30 minutes. And the other thing that I hate about movies, and this is just marketing and how they market the movie. So I actually don't really know who JoJo Siwa is, but I know she's like a big like
JoJo's Bobos. Yeah,
I
I know
know
who she
people
is.
kids the kids love her and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And they basically marketed this movie as if she's like the lead. She's like her name is on the cover. She's like first in the credits. She's in the movie for like 1 minute, you know? So
maybe three
it's
minutes total.
yeah, I
Yeah.
hate when movies do that when it's like they kind of pitch it as something and it's like not. It's like, and I get that's like the only selling point of this movie is that she might be in it, but she's not in it. Like she's literally not in the movie. So I just like little things like that just annoy that. And I know that's not the filmmaker's fault. That's like just the
Yeah, they they
studio.
they they want to generate some interest in it. I did find some funny things in it. So I thought it was really funny when the car breaks down and the cop shows up to help them. So that douchey guy, I guess is the best way to explain him,
Which one?
LB,
Was he the influencer
the hot
guy
guy.
that
He's
yeah,
a
yeah,
hot
the
guy.
hot guy,
Yeah,
the hot
the
British
the
guy, right?
standard hot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he swallows that bag of Coke. Uh, so the cop doesn't find out. So later on, when they get to the Airbnb, he like basically runs into the bathroom and then he runs out and he basically just throws a shit covered Coke bag onto the
That
table.
is funny.
And it was now, I mean, that was humor to me. I'm like, damn, they went there. And I think it was really funny because no one overreacted. They're just like, yeah, that's gross. But then like 5 minutes later, that girl Mona, who was the influencer, she tells the wannabe influencer Liv, she's like, "All right, Liv, bikini up now." And then all of a sudden they put on bikinis and they start sniffing coke. Now that is classic slasher, and I like that, and I found that funny. Not the squirrel talking, not the
Yeah.
dumb shit like that, but like that funny shit because that actually felt like that's more realistic, and that's how people would talk, and that's how people would act. And even though this Coke bag was up this guy's ass, they still used it.
I
They still
mean,
went like they used it the whole night. I mean,
I'm not gonna lie. You know?
everyone was getting in on that shit, and I thought that was funny. So yeah,
Yeah. So
but
again,
yeah,
there are things that I obviously I hated this movie. There are some things that I did find entertaining in that. Like one thing I liked. It's like there was a certain. So basically, what happens is one by one, the killer ties someone up in a room and does like a Saw thing where they like have 60 seconds or something
yeah,
terrible is going to happen to them. And there's one scene where like the girl needs to get like a certain amount of likes, and if she does, she'll live, and if not, she
yeah,
gets what happens? Like she gets acid thrown on her. Something bad happens to
yeah,
her. I
it's
forget.
bad.
But and that was kind of like a cool scene. However, like I've seen that same exact thing in like three or four different movies. Like it's not original. Like I've seen that before. But it's a cool like I thought that was kind of interesting. If I hadn't seen that done before, I would have been like, okay, that's cool. Like you said, the gore is really good. It just unfortunately like I think I would have liked this movie more is if when you got to the horror moments, they were a little more intense and scary. Like because you don't give a shit. Like you're just like, so what if this is gonna happen? Like, okay, great, he's gonna get his stomach exploded. Like, so what? So I think if they would have done a better job, and again, maybe this wasn't even trying to be a horror movie, maybe the whole thing was trying to be a comedy, and if so, maybe it worked. But I think if it had a little more suspense and intensity during those horror moments, I think it would have been like a little more tolerable.
Yeah, and I mean, basically all like the horror moments were basically shot like a Snapchat or a TikTok or something like that. They seemed like really really quick, and it wasn't really like you didn't feel a lot of dread. You just felt like this is probably gonna cut in like 30 seconds. When time is up, for my post, and that's a lot of the way it felt. And yeah, I mean. I think what bothered me a bit is like, this movie was really trying to capture like that 90s nostalgia. I know a lot of people are kind of obsessed with, that like time frame right now. And
Y2K. That's all I hear
yeah,
about is
but it's like
Y2K.
It's like, why then why can't you do it? You know, it wasn't that long ago. It didn't some of the most shittiest movies in the world came out like in the 90s that basically these movies are trying to recreate, you know, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, movies like that, which is basically six or seven teens that are being stalked by some sort of killer. I mean, this was very I Know What You Did Last Summer because, you know, the gang has like a secret that they're all keeping and there's some sort of revenge plot, you know, tied into it. But it's like, why was that movie better than this
Yeah.
movie? And
And
why
that's
did
saying a
that make
lot.
more sense? And it was like literally the same annoying trope type characters that never should be hanging out, that wouldn't be a group. And yet they pulled it off. And this is actually trying to almost duplicate that, but they can't get the look right. And they certainly can't get the feel like. And that's like why? How can you not do that? You can watch the film and be like, this is the way this film feels. And when you watch all those films, they do have a feel, whether they're good or not, they all kind of look and feel the same way. But it's like this, like if you're trying to capture that, then why'd you make this? And I found that very strange.
Yeah, again, I think it just comes back to, again, they're trying to recreate those movies, but do it with a way that they think kids are in 2024. And again, it just comes off, it doesn't
Why don't
seem
they get a
real.
23, why don't they get a 23-year-old to assist, you
Yeah,
know,
I
like
agree. I think
as
I think
you
that would have
know,
made more
it's like,
sense.
yeah, like no one would ever do that, or no one would ever say that, or no one would ever act like that. It's like like a tons of films do that. They get an expert in that area to make sure it looks authentic. You know, if you have a fight scene and it's, you know, some sort of Thai boxing, you get a professional Thai boxer to train, you know, the lead actor. So at least, you know, at a quick glance, it could fool you and it looks authentic. Like, why can't they do that for these types of films and open it up to like a group of people and be like, does this feel right? Does this feel like you? Does this represent you? Or is this like stupid? I mean, I feel like they would get the answers they need if they did that.
You know what it is? Like I was searching for like the right word for a movie like this. It's gimmicky.
Mm.
And that's what it is. It's like we're gonna like show technology and we're gonna try to make this movie look like you're on TikTok. It's like, but like again, that doesn't work. It's not a movie at that point. Like I'll just watch videos on TikTok. Like I don't need to watch 90 minutes of,
90 minutes. Yeah.
like so I think they're trying to do something and like be cool and hip. And it just again, whenever you try to be cool and hip, you're not cool and hip, right? You either are or you're not. You can't like try to make something that isn't there. Like you can't do that. Like things that are special because they're special, not because you were trying to force something like that didn't make any sense. So yeah, look, again,
It's
I will never watch this movie again.
I'm with you, and I think we're really, you know, we're taking this movie at this point. We're kind of just like, you know, we're bashing it,
Yeah,
and we're
I don't
not
know what more
loving
to
it.
say.
We're not, yeah, we're not really like diving into it. But I could definitely get into the plot a little
If you
bit
want to dive into
more.
it a little bit, that's cool. I just feel like there's nothing to dive into. I feel like it's
I,
very
I,
surface
I
level and
mean,
there's nothing there. But like if you have more to say,
yeah, I think the strange thing about this movie, it basically had like three plot twists. And I started thinking, I'm like, is this movie like overwritten and underdeveloped? You know, is there too much plot for like the level of acting they had? But should we get into like some of the spoilers, or should we not like ruin that for anyone? Because like we,
I
you
don't
know,
think we should ruin it, but I will say that like my question on the plot twists, and you're right, like there are a bunch. Did you give a shit? Like
so
and not even just like were you invested in the movie. I think like when they did the reveals, it kind of just dragged on a bit, and I was just like, okay, great, so what? Like, and some of them came out of nowhere. We're just like there's certain things you know from the beginning that okay, this is probably gonna happen, like or go a certain way, because they kind of set it up like that way. I don't know. I feel like there was just too much explanation on certain
so
things.
yeah, so I was just gonna say that's exactly what I hate in a plot twist. I like a plot twist that hits you and you just go, "Oh shit. Oh my God. I didn't see that coming." The first plot twist, I saw that from the beginning, and I'm not
Yeah,
ruining it for anyone. This is definitely a revenge based
yeah. No,
film
it's
where
clear. Like,
these people are being stalked due to like some actions. You know, they were bullying Colette, who is Jojo, who you only see basically on a phone screen. I don't know if we really ever see her for more than 2 minutes outside of like a 4-inch screen. But I hate that when the plot twist happens and instead of letting it happen, it's explained to me as if I didn't get it. And like when they go back and they tell you every single detail of why every single thing happened, it's like
I
it's
watched the
kind of
movie, I
lame.
know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's 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 kind of lame, and I don't like that. So I didn't like the majority of the plot twist. I would say maybe the last one I didn't really see happening, and I think it ended pretty good. I think for as good as this movie could end, I didn't really see that particular ending coming. So, and it really just kind of ties into the name of the film and all that. So I was like, all right, now that makes sense. But yeah, that's my pet peeve is really when they unveil each twist and they tell me like I'm like explain it to me like I'm five. And I think they took that to heart too much because if you're watching it and you're invested at all in it, you got it.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, they did that. It was like they beat you over the head with it, and it's like, yeah, I got it the first time. Like, it's kind of like what, like it's not the same thing, but it's kind of like when, like in like superhero kind of movies, where like the villain captures the superhero and then tells him the entire plan, and it's just like,
it's like I
okay,
was born 50 years ago and I
yeah, we
got
got
slapped in the
it.
face and I never forgot that slap. And until this day, it's like, oh man, I don't need to like, I get it, Again, if you're invested at all, you picked up all the nuances, you picked up all the little things, you understood that there was something underlying going on. You totally understood that these people were shitty and toxic and
Yeah,
that they
it
probably
didn't need a lot
all
of like
yeah, they
clarification to
they
let me know they're
they
assholes. Yeah, like,
they all deserve to die,
yeah.
and literally no one was innocent. Every single person here was an asshole at a certain type of level. So you don't really care for them. So you don't really have to over explain it to us. And again, I think it was a little thin for the first two plot twists. And then the third one again, it caught me a little bit by surprise, but
By the time that
not enough
happened,
to make
though,
me, yeah,
yeah,
you don't care. So I did do a little research because I saw that there was like a writing team on this,
which is
which
never
maybe,
good.
yeah, which really kind of made sense to me that there was like more than two writers. There was actually like three writers, and one of them looked like he was like 60. So it's like, dude, what are you doing working on this film? But it seemed like they were all connected to like this comedy series called PBC. I never heard of it. I don't know anything about it, but like they're all somehow connected through that. So I feel like maybe they got together and got to know each other and somehow decided it's like, hey, let's make a horror movie. And this is what they came up with. Even though it seemed like they were traditionally comedic people, whether they're actors, writers, producers, whatever. They all definitely have more of a comedy background.
Yeah,
So
and that makes sense because again, this isn't really a horror movie. It's more of like a comedy movie with um horror elements, I would say. Which again
so
is not
just
necessarily a bad thing. It
yeah.
doesn't work. It's only good if it works. Like Shaun of the
So
Dead, I think is a comedy movie with
yeah,
horror elements, but it works.
100%, and that works. And thinking about like what we said a little earlier when I was watching A Quiet Place, and I put that on, and I said to myself, "Why the fuck am I watching this? What am I doing?" And then there was a payoff. I think when I put this movie on, and within 10 minutes, I'm like, "What the fuck am I watching this? What am I doing?" There was no payoff here.
No.
I'm sorry. We maybe think of us as like a bunch of like boomers, whatever. We're not boomers. We're not that old, but this just didn't connect with me, and I was actually more into wanting to like this film than I was at A Quiet Place. So I went into this pretty positive, thinking, it's a slasher film. I like slashers. Hopefully, it's a good movie, but I think it was pretty terrible. I don't know if there's something I'm missing. Hit me up, send me some hate mail, tell me I'm old, tell me I don't understand what's going on in the world. But I don't get it.
All right, so 0 to 1 bloody knives. How did you give this one?
So hey, look, so what you probably never realized is we could do halves. I'm giving this a half bloody knife. This is the lowest rating I ever gave on this show.
I've given a 0 before. I think I gave a 0 to Amityville Part 2.
You
And I
did.
feel like I gave a 0 to something else, but I know I definitely gave it to that. But yeah, I've never given a half before. And I think I am gonna give this a half because there were a couple of things I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. Like and I give them credit for throwing in some gore and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm right with you there. I'm gonna give you a half. But however, I don't really feel like drinking for a half second. So why don't we just do this? Because like I actually have not drank too much this episode. So
I'm listening.
why don't we combine the two scores for both movies, Quiet Place and this one, and let's drink for that. So that means that I need to drink for 4 and you need to drink for 3.5. Why don't we do that? Because like I have this big glass that is full and I want
I
to
mean,
finish it.
look at me. This is embarrassing. And anyone who is, if they were a guest tonight, they would have been super embarrassed. But I think if our guest did show up, we would have been trashed at this point, and this episode would have sounded a lot different because
Yeah, if
we would
anyone
have been
listened to our
partying pretty
last
hard.
episode, we were pretty hammered. So it feels nice and good for my liver that we kind of took it easy this episode. All right, so let's drink. Let's do it. 3.5 for you, 4 for me. Ready? Go.
Cheers.
Mm. My glass was filled so high, I spilled it, half of it all over myself. But
Yeah,
that's fine.
I see that. Yeah, and
That was a mess.
this is still a good bourbon. And to reiterate, I'm recommending A Quiet Place. I do not recommend All My Friends Are Dead. And I thought it was just a bad movie, man. I hope I never see it again.
Yeah, same here, same here. So, okay, so next episode, I know we're going to talk about Long Legs finally, which you've seen.
Hell yeah.
I have not yet. I'm super stoked to see it. And then we're going to talk about Trap, I believe, which I will say I am not a fan of M. Night Shyamalan. I don't think actually, you know what? I thought Cabin in the Woods was is that what it's called? Knock at the Cabin. I thought was okay.
Not the cap. Hated it.
I didn't mind it. However, I am excited. This one looks different and interesting, and I like the trailer, so I'm actually excited to talk about it. And we may or may not have our guest that was supposed to be on tonight. If not, we're just gonna have fun.
We're just gonna have, yeah, we're definitely just gonna have some drinks and maybe do some drinking games. But yeah, I'm gonna tell you what. I already saw Long Legs, but I'm excited to watch it again because I thought it was fantastic, and there'll be plenty to talk about. So I'm excited for the next episode, and yeah, that's it for us. So if you're feeling this, man, definitely help us out. Follow us on Instagram. Send us some mail if you need to, but if you can, please just give us a nice rating on Spotify because those really help, and we need that. We're just a small guy, small guys in a big pond here, and we're trying to do our thing. So please support us when you can.
All right, so again, that's horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com or at horrorheadspodcast on Instagram. Have a good night, everybody. Later.
Yeah, later. Bye.